I am, oh, hi, I can hear myself. Um, yeah, thank you so much for coming. My name is Agne. I've been in games industry for nearly a decade now. Did all kinds of things, did PR, esports, publishing. I personally cannot make very good games. I can make very bad games, but I am in the business of making other people's games better. I'm the head of publisher relations at Ground. We're a playtesting platform for PC games. And today I'm going to talk about how to avoid a bad Steam score. I cannot tell you how to get overwhelmingly positive one. For that, you would have to, I don't know, do very good game design, narrative, art, and maybe just witchcraft, because sometimes you don't have any of that and still have very good results. But negative reviews can be prevented. Steam score is very simple. It's not rating of how good certain parts of the game are. It's either recommended or not recommended. And there will always be players that be like, oh, I don't like puzzle games. I don't recommend this. I don't know why they're even buying the game or reviewing it, but you cannot avoid that. But there are many people who say that I really want to like this game, but all these issues prevent me from recommending it to other players. And all these issues could be avoided through playtesting. I'm sure most of you who make games want to make games that people enjoy. And the more people enjoy the games, the more pride you can take in it, because there's just more good in the world. That's why I believe right now we had the audience mature. The players learn how to present their own opinion a lot better than before because they played more games. They have a lot of opinions. Social media allowed us to get the word out and believe that our opinion matters. So we get a lot of people on Steam writing reviews, helping other players see if they want to play the game. And it becomes a very powerful tool now because instead of listening to one person's opinion, you can ask many people and see what works for most people. So today I'm going to go through simply what playtesting is, what happens if you don't playtest, how to turn feedback into actionable tasks, common challenges and solutions, and what kind of data you can collect and why you should do that. So in short, playtesting is just having your game in front of people who do not work on the game. It could be your mom, but she might be a bit biased. She could be very positive or very, very negative if she's super critical. Or it could be 100,000 players that you never met. Ooh, I'm sorry, something happened. Thank you. So you can test different kinds of things. You can test game design. Is the game clear? Are puzzles possible to solve? You can test different mechanics. Do attacks make sense? Is it intuitive? You can test different features. Are you missing a certain feature? Should you add a certain mode? Should you add, I don't know, character creator, map creator, and of course, overall user experience. The main question is, are people having fun? Do you evoke the right emotions in your players? And that's all that matters. Do people get an experience for the money that they pay? I'm really sad that I have to have this slide, but playtesting is not QA. And about 50% of people I meet, I have to explain why. So I'm going to go through differences in playtesting and QA. Playtesting is user research. QA is testing, like technical testing of the game. So there's difference in who does different tests. Playtesters are just regular gamers. Usually they don't even work in games. QA testers are professional people who are hired by the company to just make the game better technically. The focus of playtesters is just what they feel, what they think about the game. It's very qualitative. QA testers are more technical. It's more looking for bugs and inconsistencies. It's also how people play the game. So playtesters are just regular gamers, so they play as regular gamers. QA testers are trying to find the fringe cases. They try to break the game. They try to exploit different mechanics. Playtesters will definitely tell you if they found some bugs, but that's not their core objective. While QA is actually there to find your bugs, so you have a smooth experience. And it's just general user behavior. Playtesters might play your game multiple times if you have multiple playtests, or sometimes they will just play once. QA people will play our game hundreds of times, and they will know it so much inside out that they don't even have like outside perspective at all anymore. There are many types of playtesting, depends how you want to group it. So I personally group it either by size or by goals. By size, it means you can have friends and family playtest your game. That's not necessarily directly your friends and family. It could be your colleagues, it could be other people in the games industry, but it's usually very small tests with 1, 2, 3 people. You ask their opinion. It could be very early. You can ask about even concept before you even have any gameplay. Next size would be focus group. It can be anywhere from 10 to 50, sometimes 200 people, but that's mostly for AAA companies. Focus groups are outside people going to a lab, playing your game. It is a lot more objective than having people in games play it, but it's not very natural user behavior because most of us play at home alone. We don't have developer hovering over our shoulder and telling us what to do. Then there's closed alpha and beta tests where you either have NDAs with players or you don't, but you have selected players playing your game. It's not available to everyone. And then you can collect feedback. It's usually larger size because it's done online. And you can get more objective experience from that just because people play at home. And you have less influence of what they will do in the game. And then it goes to open alpha and beta. You have hundreds, if not thousands of players, and it's very useful, but usually it's so open that people don't even know where to leave feedback, so it becomes all over the place, and you have to have very good system to analyze that data, because if you have 100,000 people playing, you need to have analytics in-game to make use of that. Or you can separate playtesting by the goals. You can verify, is my game idea good? Are people interested? Am I ready for full launch? You can test features even before you fully develop them. You can even have like a button to go to a certain mode and see if people are clicking it, even if there's nothing there. You can have a marketing demo that helps you grow your community. It has to be more comprehensive. A full gaming experience. It helps you improve the game, but also it helps you just build your community that will buy your game in the future. And you can have market sentiment tests where you playtest the game and see what is your actual demographic that plays your game and likes your game. Which age groups, which gender, which regions. Maybe you need to put more marketing effort into a certain region, or maybe you should just localize the game because people don't understand what the game is about. So you should playtest the game because if you have bad user reviews, they're very hard to recover from. You will not have overwhelmingly positive reviews if you started with mostly negative. Playtesting can help you prioritize the right tasks. So it can help you define your milestones a lot better than just you thinking that you can do this in a certain amount of time. It can help you verify different concepts and features before you invest the money. As I said, you can have a feature and just ask your users, are you interested in this? Do you want us to work on this before you started it? And you can do audience research to know where your marketing spend should go and what's your persona who would play your game. And if you don't play test, you will lose money. AAA developers, they sometimes can afford that because people still buy even if it's negative reviews in the hopes that it was going to be fixed. For indie devs, it's very unlikely that someone will buy your negatively reviewed game. You will build a bad reputation, and there are some companies that have that, and people don't want to buy their games initially because they know they're going to fix it later, so you lose initial hype. If you release a game, you get a lot of feedback and you want to fix it to improve, you will have your team crunch. It will hurt your morale. You might have to spend money on outsourcing so you can make it faster. And it's just going to be a huge investment on your part. And also, you can sink a lot of budget into things that you think people want instead of asking your audience, what do you want? Do you want more enemy types or do you want more attack types? Because we have limited budgets, we have limited timelines, and it's very important to prioritize things that your players want, not yourself. So if you don't playtest, this happens. And this, and this, and of course this. You get very negative reviews that could be prevented, especially if you playtest very early on. So I'm going to go through some reviews by real players of Gollum and what kind of feedback you can get and turn it into action. So bad marking what environment Gollum may use for jump or climb or crawl. So from experience, you will die all the time. So you see the emotion. People are frustrated. They die all the time. And they have very clear problem that can be fixed. The environment is not clear enough to indicate what the user can do. So it's sort of UX issue. Did I mention how horrible Gollum looks in Lord of the Rings Gollum? Because it is really something which needs to be seen to be believed. So that's graphics. That you cannot fix if you're already launched or you're close to launching. But if you test very early, you can actually fix it. Babylon's Fall is actually a good example because they got early feedback that their art style, even though it's like painting like, made the game unplayable because people couldn't see what to do in the game. So they improved the graphics. They still had negative reviews because they had other issues, but the graphics was not one of them. Movement is so stiff and prepared to die a lot from falling. So it's also movement was not balanced, and it makes the gameplay experience frustrating, and if it affects the gameplay, which is, I'm not saying it's an easy fix, but it's a very clear fix. You can also find positive things. I love having schizo arguments with myself. So knowing your strengths is very powerful because you either know that you don't need to spend more time on this and you can just build up on what you have, or you can just full on do what's best, what works for this game, and just focus on less things that you do really, really well. Most users, they will give you solutions, but actually they don't know how to make games. So focus on what the problems people have, not the solutions. And for that, you need to look for patterns. It's not one person's opinion, it's what most people think. So clunky controls, bad stealth, or frequent screen tearing. Controls are broken, AI is a joke. The game visually is a complete letdown. Controls are infuriating, graphics are awfully blurry and cannot be fixed, stealth is pointless. Stealth gameplay is very mixed due to the inconsistency of the AI. The enemy AI is basic and at best and brain dead at worst. So these are like actual examples from Gollum, and you see there's multiple people saying the same things about stealth, about controls, about AI, and these should be the priorities when fixing the game. It shouldn't be like adding more content, and it actually upsets people, even though it's usually different teams adding, I know, cosmetics or stuff like that. But people get upset because they want the core gameplay be fixed first. So how do you turn feedback into action? I asked a studio that we worked with, Afnarel from Sweden. They have a game, very cool action RPG with like monster shifting. They tested the game and asked, what changes did you make based on that feedback? And it's very clear. So some users thought the game was either too easy or too hard. We decided to implement 4 difficulty levels. I usually don't recommend trying to cater for everyone because then your game is basically for no one. But they saw broader audience interested in the game, and they managed to find a way to be more inclusive of more people, which is pretty good. Players wanted better guidance on navigating the world, make it easier to understand how to upgrade their characters, and make it all more readable. We revamped some menus and overall worked a lot on improving the UI UX. So these were very, very specific things people mentioned. There's navigation of the world, character upgrades, and readability. So it was very clear what actions developer had to make to improve the gameplay. We noticed that bad frame rate contributed to the game being harder and more frustrating to play, and got a push to optimize the game further to improve not only the quality of graphics, but also the overall gaming experience. We all know that performance issues can be very frustrating, but they don't necessarily make the game harder. But if it does, it affects the whole gameplay experience. And that's why developer decided to prioritize that over like maybe making more content. Some users preferred the 3D map and others a 2D map or a mini map for clarity. We worked on the 3D map, refining how you control it and how it looks, making a good waypoint system that guides players in the world, and making sure that the map position is top down when first opening it, so players can choose to have more of a 2D map feel. Again, they were very trying to cater for more people, so they kept their 3D map, made a 2D feel, made it more clear. But it was very actionable, the feedback that they got. Let's go into how to run a playtest in general. It's very simple. You have to prepare for it, you have to run it, and then you have to analyze it. To prepare, you need to define your goals and objectives. If you don't ask the right questions, you will not get the right answers. So you need to know why you are playtesting, because it will dictate the rest of your playtest setup. So if you define your goals, that will help you understand what kind of playtest you need to do, whether it's a focus group or a closed beta, is it open beta, is it with certain demographics, is it with a certain build. So also you need to prepare the build and tools for it. Depending on your objectives, you can have certain levels tested, you can have tutorial tested, you can have more developed demo tested. You need to know what questions you're asking and make sure the build showcases that. So, because if you're testing a certain feature, but that feature is not done, or it's not the main focus, or you need to play for 5 hours to get to that feature, then it's not the right build for the test. And also you need to prepare the tools, including survey questions, and that is also defined by your goals. One of the main things for playtesting is recruiting players. I will talk about it a little bit later, but without players, there's no playtesting. Then you need to patch the build throughout. It's very important to talk to your community and make sure that you fix things that are broken right now, that most people mention, and that are easily fixed, because people have very limited attention span. If they focus on one bug and they keep reporting the same bug, you miss out on things that they couldn't notice otherwise. And of course, you need to collect feedback and data. As I said, if you just do a playtest on Steam, people will not know where to go. They will not know if they need to go to Discord or they need to leave feedback on Community Hub. Is there a forum? Make it easy for them. You need to have a system in place where people should leave feedback so you can collect it. And also process the results, categorize feedback that you got, have different categories. Is it UI issues, graphics, is it audio? And after playtest, you have to analyze that data. So you need to know, what does this data mean? What do I need to improve? Turn it into actionable tasks. And then implement those tasks, improve the game, and then verify if those improvements made sense. I know that you think that you've read the feedback, you had suggestions, you implemented, now the game is good. That's not true. Players don't necessarily know what they want, and you need to retest it with some of the players that already tested the game and some new players that never played the game before, to know that overall gaming experience is actually better than it was before. So key factors for successful playtesting is setting clear goals and objectives, effective communication with playtesters. So you tell them, focus on this, focus on that, so you get the most out of your playtest. Thorough analysis of playtesting data. If you just gather data and do nothing with it, why even bother? And timely implementation of improvements. So as I said, it's very good to retest the game with the same player base as well as new players. If you wait too long, you might lose all the players that played the game before. And then you will have just completely new batches of players playing the game, and it's less accurate. Some of the most common challenges is actually recruiting players. And if you've released a game before, talk to those players, ask them to play your new game, even if it's in a different genre. A lot of players like to support the developer, not only the game. So it's a very powerful community that you have, even if it's a small one, even if it's few people that will join your new game. It's worth tapping into it. Another one is look for students and aspiring game developers, whether at game jams or development events, like even the developer, there's a lot of students. They have more similar experience and play style to regular gamers than people who worked in games for a long time, because we become very jaded when we play games all the time, and it's just not the same. Like, I don't make games myself, but I play so much that I don't represent every like 30-year-old woman. What worked for us was working with micro influencers. They have very small audiences. It could be anywhere like, I don't know, 20 people watching their stream to like maybe a few hundred people watching their stream, but they're very engaged. So if you support them, you share their streams with your community, they might do the same, and you can build your community out of that and get playtesters through micro influencers, because people want to play with their alongside their influencers that they watch. Or you can just hire a playtesting service that is a solution that just solves the problem, but also it requires a lot of funds. And limited financial resources is also one of the main challenges. So first thing, if you have a publisher or investor, talk to them. Sometimes they have their own playtesting community. Sometimes they have partnerships with playtesting services. And if not, maybe if you build a good case study that this can save you some time or money, or get a clear direction in order to meet your milestones, they will give you more funds to do that. So ideally, you want to budget it in when you're raising funds to make your game, because then you know that you're going to have enough runway to finish the game and do the playtest. Also, you should grow your playtesting community organically. It's the hardest one because it takes very long. It requires a lot of man hours, but it's always that. There's no shortcut. It's either time or money. You have to choose one. And check in with your government if they can help you. I'm not sure about the UK, but many countries have R&D grants that you can use for playtesting. And us at G-Round, we have partnerships with some governments, not UK yet, but maybe in the future, where they buy a bunch of vouchers and then give to the developers that belong to that region. So how do you balance playtesting with other development tasks? Most of you have small teams, and it's difficult to run a playtest and make your game and hit all your milestones in time. So that's why you should start early, integrate it into your pipeline. So you know this month we're going to playtest. We cannot do all these development tasks because we need to talk to the community. We need to patch the build up, and don't multitask. That's why you need to pre-plan it early. Don't work on a feature that you're testing right now, because you might just have to redo it, and that time will be lost. You can work on other things, just not specifically that relate to the goals that you set for your playtest. And separate must-haves from nice-to-haves. That's actually one of the best uses of playtesting, because it helps you define what is the core of your game, what actually people like. It's not you thinking that this is very cool, it's people thinking that these are your strengths. You should focus on that first. Don't work on 20 different features at the same time. Finish what is important, and then slowly add additional things one after another that are just nice to have. So there are different kinds of data you can collect, and each of type of data has different purpose. So you can have a rating for different parts of the game or just the game itself. It's very good to have that because it's very quantitative. And if you do multiple playtests, you can see if you're improving or if you're staying the same, if you're doing worse than before. Then there's written reviews. It's very like personal. It's not objective. It's very personal opinion, but it's very useful because you get to actually see what people think. Like it's usually longer reviews. People say what they like, what they dislike, what they would like to see in the game, and this is what would appear on your Steam page if you launch the game. Then there's player behavior. If you integrate some sort of analytics, you can get a lot of useful information from what people do. For example, how many people finish a certain quest, when people start dropping off. Maybe it's too difficult, or maybe it's too boring. So when you see what people do in the game, you can balance it. Also, you can balance characters. People choose one character over another more. So it gives you a lot of insight about the actual gameplay. Survey is one of the most powerful ones because you can ask very specific questions. It could be like game specific, which mechanic you use the most, and it could be marketing specific. It could be a comparison with other things. Video content is also more objective than self-reporting. Video content lets you see first-time user experience. So are people doing what you expect them to do? Because they don't know what you expect them to do, so they cannot write it down that, you know, I did not what you expected me to do. But you can see what they do. Same with UI. Can players understand what they need to click? Are they spending too long in certain menus? And there's physical response. This is less common. It can only be done in a lab, but heart rate, eye tracking. There's companies that do emotional response before people feel it. So usually it takes time to build up frustration until a person feels that, oh, I'm frustrated. But it's only the straw that broke the camel's back. You need to know what led to that frustration and improve on that. That's why it's good to have physical response, but it's usually more advanced and more expensive than any other kind of data to collect. So rating, as I said, you can have different things rated. This is what we separate. We ask to rate game idea, gameplay, story, and so on. And you can compare it to your own game, or you can compare it to other similar games in the genre. When you look at reviews, try to find the most constructive ones. You don't want people just saying, oh, I hate it. Like, that's not going to help you. But you want people who invest time into reviewing your game, because that's the players that would write maybe a not recommended review, but want the game better to recommend it otherwise. Because people investing their time is a good sign in the first place. And survey, so I'm going to just give a few examples. You can ask, what settings would you add to the settings menu? It's a very clear question. You might forget some options, and this will help you to be sure that you're not forgetting, like, I don't know, visual graphics options or something like that. It's very difficult to create unbiased questions, so it's good to try out different questions over time, so you see which ones don't lead people on. So were there any mechanics you didn't understand? The clarity is the big question that you should focus on, because if people don't know how to play the game, they will not enjoy it. If you could change one thing to make the game better, what would it be? This question is good for prioritizing. So if you see many people mentioning the same thing, you can prioritize that over other features or mechanics or whatever improvements you need. Was the gameplay what you expected based on description? That's a marketing question. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but a few games that have multiple genres mashed together, they struggle to define the game. And then people see a genre and they expect certain mechanics or certain features in the game that they're not there, and then they don't recommend the game. So you need to be very clear what your game is about, and so you don't have different expectations from reality, because that will hurt your rating. And what similar games have you played before? How they compare? It's a very good question to find more competitors, because sometimes you know which games you compete with, but sometimes you don't know all of them. So it will help you do your research so you can see your strengths, your weaknesses, and how you compare. So is it really necessary to playtest? Well, I mean, it depends. It depends if you have the budget, if you have the time, if you want to make the game that most people want to play, if you want to maximize the player base and the experience that the players have. But it can also help you find publishing, because you can leverage positive player feedback in publisher negotiations. It's not you saying that, oh, my game is amazing. It's people who have no incentive to like your game saying that this game is good. So it minimizes the risk a publisher takes when signing your game. So Point Blank Games said, playtesting results took us over the finish line with the AAA publishing deal we just signed. So as I said, it won't get you like a full publishing deal, but it will definitely give you an edge in the negotiations. So what can you do with the playtesting data? First of all, you can adjust controls. You can remap controls. It's very useful. You can improve combat. You can improve different attacks. You can improve enemy AI. You can change art direction, usually very early on. It's hard to change it later in development. You can focus on the right content. So you can ask players, do you want a longer story or do you want more bosses? Do you want more weapons or do you want more, I don't know, spells? Because the time constraints will make you choose, and you can choose it yourself or you can have your audience choose it for you. You can select best marketing assets. So it's not only description, you can put different trailers in front of players, you can ask which screenshots are the best, you can ask if this key art is good, would it make you click the game? It helps you fix bugs. It's not the main priority for playtesting, but you can definitely, players definitely report some bugs when playtesting. And as I say, you can leverage positive playtesting results in publisher negotiations. So key takeaways, playtesting is important. That's basically all what the talk is about. And you can improve and verify the game with playtesting. Lack of playtesting will result in a bad Steam score and other issues. It's not 100%. Some people just release a game and it's overwhelmingly positive. But as I said, I think it's witchcraft. Game developers can translate feedback into actionable tasks. You can collect qualitative data like reviews and surveys, and quantitative data like ratings and user behavior analytics. And players can give feedback about UI, controls, gameplay mechanics, and the overall fun of the game. So, thank you. We have some questions?
Thank you very much. I have a question about making your feedback actionable. So I'm running a small closed playtest for my game. And what I've found is the quantitative data that I get, because it's a small playtest, it's not that useful. And then the qualitative data, if it's like a scoring or a multiple choice, that can sort of tell you where to focus your attention maybe, but not specifically what needs to be changed. So I've found that the unstructured, the free text feedback is the most actionable, but as you said, it's also the most subjective. So then you have to make a judgment call as to whether to pay attention to this one individual's opinion. So do you have any suggestions on how to make any of those types of feedback more actionable?
Ideally, you just do a bigger, bigger playtest, because bigger playtests will give you more data points to prioritize. But yes, you have to make a judgment call. If it's a small playtest, it will be very subjective and biased. But it gives you things to think about, and also look into what the player is, and does this player who uh, said those things, is it your main player? Are they interested in the genre? Are they the right age group? Are they the right gender? I mean, gender, maybe everyone's the right gender, but still, you need to be very sure that you want to listen to this person over someone who represents the player group that you're aiming for.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Just a quick one for people that don't really have much of a following or they're just starting out. How do you find playtesters other than like friends and family?
As I said, I recommend talking to students and going to these like local events and just putting your game in front of people that are interested in it, and in exchange, sometimes in exchange of your own opinion about their game. This is the easiest way if you don't have any following.
Hi there. You mentioned at one point you might have a publisher with a kind of playtesting team, maybe people who don't work specifically on the game who are able to assist. That's kind of where I'm sitting, or part of my role at the moment. And I'm wondering what you would recommend for someone who's doing that kind of playtesting. How can I make my feedback more useful to the studios that are receiving it?
Say, I would buy the game. That's a very good sign that people would buy the game. That's a very good feedback. And yeah, the more specific you can be about unique selling proposition of the game, the easier it is to pitch it to publisher.
Thank you.
Thanks. I just wanted to respond to your question about where to find playtesters. So one thing that you can do is Steam now has a feature that it's a playtest feature. So you can put a button on your page right next to the wishlist button. And that's a really good way to find people that are not just friends and family.
Yeah, but those people, like, you have to have people coming to your page first. It doesn't always work.
You talked about earlier, like it causes bad, if you don't do playtesting, it causes bad scores, and it's difficult to get out of that. But I guess if we are to look at a game that has bad scores, what can be, what are the big things that can be? Because games do recover from bad scores, but is it a case of a big update or relaunch? How would a game get out of the negative scores?
Respond to reviewers. If you made an improvement that reviewers said that they don't like, respond and say, we fixed this. Would you update your review? This is actually a very useful strategy, and it worked for many developers.
So they can go back and now recommend it because
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely patch the game up, and then go back to the reviewers and ask them to update it.
When looking for playtesters, especially when it's like family or friends, etc., on the questionnaire form, would you recommend making it anonymous or making it so that they like state who they are and what they do, etc.?
I don't think they should be anonymous, because they're still your friends and family, and it's good to have context who this person is. Context always helps you understand the feedback better. So if you know those people, you know what kind of games they play, and then it will let you know why they said the things they said. Any other questions? Oh, there's a question.
Thank you. So I'm I'm part of a startup company, and we've got some demos coming out on our Steam pages. The way of letting people know about who we are, our demo, we've got Twitter, because we've got like a much bigger follower base on Twitter compared to other social media sites. So is it best to keep updating regularly on Twitter just to let people know that there's a demo to play test?
Yes, definitely do Twitter, and even in the like the username, you can add a demo on Steam. So because sometimes people search for demo on Twitter as just like a search thing. So this definitely helps, and participating in like Steam Next Fest or
That's what I'm doing.
yeah, because then you get showcased and people look for that. There's a lot of different showcases, so try to participate in the relevant ones. And Twitter is great. Twitter is where most people actually look for demos.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I was told that you will get some email to rate the talk. I would appreciate it. So I can also get your feedback and improve, and maybe Develop will bring me back again next year. So thank you very much.